Hello everyone, this is the Business back with another video, and I thought I'd talk about the Grandmasters Discord. This is a server that was created by Krashy, and I'm sure many of you know about it. You might have questions though as to whether or not you should join, so I thought I would give my relatively unbiased perspective from a person who's playing it for the first time, doesn't know too much going into it, but does know the basics. So I thought I'd talk about this and give my overall impressions about the server, who I think would enjoy this server the most, the good things and bad things I did see, because I want to be as unbiased as possible, and of course, it's never going to be perfect. Some questions I had going into it that I think many others might have, and how they got answered, and finally some thoughts as to whether or not you're on the fence to join, as well as my personal record that I had at the end of the night. So first of all, what is the Grandmasters Discord? The Grandmasters Discord is a server with the goal of creating a more competitive ranked experience for Pokemon Unite fans. It includes a pick and ban mode, a solo queue ladder, more accurate MMR, some prizes for people who do really well at the top of the leaderboard, and many other features as well. My overall experience with it was that I had a lot of fun. I was not expecting to have as much fun as I ended up having. I was planning to actually play for 2 hours and then, do some solo queue after that or something. Ended up playing for 3 hours, and I had a lot of fun. It was pretty cool. There were some bumps along the road, especially towards the end, and I'll go into that a bit later. But I thought I would also talk about the types of players who might enjoy this server the most. If you're a player that's hitting 2100 coins a week consistently, and you want some sort of different experience, you're kind of bored with the ranked state of Pokemon Unite, I think this is a perfect fit for you. If you are a player that watches UCS but you don't have a 5-stack, or maybe you just enjoy watching competitive Unite, and you want to see how good you would be in a slightly more competitive scene, this is a great answer for you. After all, the server is currently only being run once a week, so it's just one day, and it's not too much time. I mean, it's as much time as you want to put in, right? So overall, I think it's a great experience, and if you are these types of players, I think you'll enjoy it a lot. There is a small learning curve that goes into joining the server. There will be a linked description, or a linked video in the description, as well as a pinned comment that can hopefully help on this. And there are also people on the server that can help if you have questions, so feel free to ask, and feel free to ask questions in the description too. Now, the good and bad things about the server, as well as some general questions I had going into things, right? So one of the biggest questions I had was queue times, because the queue time for ranked Pokemon Unite is one of the biggest things, the biggest features of Pokemon Unite, right? You can get into games, they're 10 minutes long. Overall, let's say it takes around 12.5 minutes for a game from start, from like clicking the join queue button to the end of a game, because you have to match into a game, which maybe takes 40 seconds or so. You have to pick your Pokemon, which is another 60 seconds. The game is 10 minutes. So let's say around 12.5 minutes maximum. The queue time in the server is a bit longer, because first of all, I mean, you have all these normal stuff, right? And then you also have the pick and ban mode, which is another around like 1 minute, a little bit over a minute maybe. I don't actually know the exact time on it, but it's a little bit over a minute, so pick and ban will take some time. And then the Discord server has its own queue, because you have to queue into games themselves. And my maximum queue time for it was around 2 minutes. There were times where I instantly queued, so it really is dependent on the number of players that are on the Discord server that are playing on a given night, and this queue time can be reduced. But overall, I found that the queue time for games from the start of a Discord queue to the end of a game was around 16.5 to 17 minutes or so. And again, this can be reduced if more people join, so this was a major worry I had, but overall this is not the worst situation, and this was the highest. Again, keep in mind, this was like the most. Some games were around like 15 minutes from the start of the Discord queue to the end of the game, so overall not too bad. Okay, so now to talk about another bad thing, because I feel like there's plenty of good things about the server, right? It's good to also keep in mind the bad things that are there. There are times where people may join a game and people's games will crash. It's inevitable. You have 10 people, there are 10 chances of things going wrong. Things will eventually go wrong. And I didn't have any this throughout most of the night, but towards the end of the night, I did have 2 games where someone among the 10 people ended up having a game crash, which was obviously problematic because that meant we would have to reset the game. This wasn't a problem in terms of MMR, like our MMR was not affected or anything, and if there are problems with MMR related things, if there are game crashes, feel free to contact the mods on the server. They're definitely able to help, and yes, these mods did join the server, I believe on May 19th, which is the day that I played, so pretty cool that there are 4 mods on the server right now. There are ways to prevent MMR from being lost, but you will have to play the game because you can only surrender a game, of course, at 5 minutes. So this is the biggest problem because basically you're locked into a game for 5 minutes and you can't really do anything about it. So basically the only way to really fix this is, first of all, being very well aware before getting into a game. Like, is everything set correct? Is the draft mode correct? Is everything set the way it should be set prior to clicking the start screen? Make sure everyone is ready, because obviously this is something you should do. Yeah, I mean, that's all you can do, and hopefully people don't end up crashing. But if people do crash, it's fine. Unfortunately, it's part of life. It happens. I think it was fine at first, but unfortunately this did lead to some people kind of becoming a bit more toxic over time. At least in my opinion. At the start of the night, I noticed that everyone was pretty chill for the most part. People weren't too toxic, but towards the end of the night, I think with people crashing, with tensions getting a bit higher, games getting lost, games getting won, things a bit out of control at times, I think some people got a little bit toxic, which is something I am very much against. And thankfully, it seems like Krashy is very much against it as well, especially when it comes to managing the server. Specifically when it comes to managing the server, I should say. He has been very adamant on the overall server being non-toxic, on people being relatively friendly, and having a GG go next mentality. So my mentality when playing on this server in general is like, you play a game, you have fun, it's going to be rough, there are going to be people that are going to be good, people who are not going to be as good. This is just a part of Unite. We've never had a proper ranked mode in Unite, which will actually separate our skill level. This is our first time where we have a system that is actually doing that, so a lot of us are going to be surprised. We're going to be playing games, and some games are going to be harder than others. We're going to have games where we're going to have to carry our teammates. This is how the game works. It's not necessarily going to be a much easier time. There are going to be times where people make questionable plays, but rather than flaming them for this, I don't think flaming people for their plays is necessarily the best idea, because that will just convince people to not want to play. So in my head, I think having this mentality of flaming people and being toxic towards them, even though it can be pretty easy because you're all in this Discord server together, it's definitely something I'm very much against, and it seems like everyone, in terms of mods, in terms of this overall like people who are running the server, are against as well. So one of the last major questions I had going into the server was, is it too late for me to join the server? Because this is a server that was created around, now I think a month ago at this point when you're watching this. I joined it I think around 3 weeks into things. I had finals, I had stuff in life going on, so I was busy, I wasn't able to do it. And I also wanted to see the server grow and, kind of figure out things the first couple weeks, so that's why I joined it a bit later. But you might be wondering, is it too late for you to join now? Like, if I join, is there any chance of me even climbing to the higher ranks? And I thought I'd talk about my record and my overall state where I'm at in the actual server. So I played 8 games that night. I went 4-4, 50% win rate, kinda standard. You start at 1000 MMR, and my ending MMR at the night was 1019. So this kind of makes sense. I played some, I won some, I lost some, 50-50, slightly higher than the starting level. I am at the 82nd position in the overall leaderboard out of 216 people. So it is definitely possible for you to climb and do relatively well. If you are a good player and you win a majority of your games, if you're pulling a 60% win rate on the server, you're going to climb pretty high. So it is definitely not too late to join. If you're on the fence and you're not sure whether or not you should, I think it's still a great time to join. Even if you don't place on the highest parts of the leaderboard, it's at least a good practice experience if you really want to go hard into it in season 12, the next season, when the server starts again, because I think I've heard Krashy talk about how he wants to have the MMR be a little bit better, have things be a bit smoother, and of course starting at the beginning of the season we'll have a whole entire season of Pokemon Unite in this server, which will be a pretty cool experience. Overall, I think that's everything. If you have any questions or anything you want to ask, feel free to let me know in the comments. And finally, would you like to see any content of my experience? Like, would you like to see any highlight games maybe? Would you like to see cool moments? Maybe some sort of compilation? I'm not sure. I have lots of ideas for potential videos that I could make with this server, and if people are interested, feel free to let me know. And yeah, hope you all enjoyed, hope you found this informative, and I will see you in the next video. Cheers.